I kissed another man to make him jealous. He left me humiliated. I thought one kiss would make him want me more, but all it did was show him I wasn't worth it. And that's when I realized that taking that step was the biggest mistake ever. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. I know better now, but this knowledge is wasted if it can't even return things to normal. That's why your unbiased advice will be really appreciated. My name is Kate, and you can call my boyfriend Josh. We've been together for 2 years, and he was perfect. At least he used to be. The reason why I made that statement is because that's what I felt at the time, and it led me down the wrong path. I should never have let my delusional observations about our relationship cloud my judgment. But before you criticize me for my actions, hear me out. A lot of things happened that made me make that choice. I know I wasn't thinking straight. I was fueled by my own insecurities and delusions. Although that was a mistake on my path, that's why I did what I did. The thing is, in the beginning, Josh made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. He remembered every little detail about me, always made time to see me, and every night before bed, I'd get a "good night, beautiful" text like clockwork. He was thoughtful, kind, and there was this quiet way he showed he cared. He wasn't the loud or over-the-top romantic type, but he knew me, he saw me, or at least, that's what I thought. But somewhere along the way, things changed. I can't even pinpoint when it started, but it happened after we moved in together. One day, I just noticed that he was different. I felt it. You see, our relationship was like a fast-paced romance novel. Everything happened so quickly, and things were getting very serious, and we decided to move in together. We'd planned to get married soon, and that's all I ever wanted before everything changed into a total mess. Like I mentioned, Josh is a sweet man. He was still a sweet man after we moved in together. But this sweetness and adorable part of him lasted 5 months after we moved in together. He was now a whole new person in my eyes. He was coming home late, barely calling anymore to check up on me when he's out, and when we did talk, it felt like he was just elsewhere. I'd tell him about my day, and he'd give me one-word replies, distracted, like he was already thinking about something else. Sometimes he'd be on his phone, barely listening, and was nodding just to keep me going. I could feel myself slipping out of focus in his life, like I was just another part of his day he had to get through. And it hurt. It hurt in a way I couldn't even explain. I missed the version of us that felt alive. I started noticing all the little things he used to do that he didn't anymore. The way he used to make plans for us on weekends, planning surprise getaways or lazy movie nights, was gone. All of that was gone. I couldn't remember the last time he suggested anything for us to do together. I felt like I was becoming invisible to him, like I was just there, more like a fixture in his life, but not the center of it anymore. And I hated feeling that way. I'd tried talking to him about it a couple of times and bringing up how distant he seemed and how much I missed the way we used to be. But every conversation went the same way. He'd say I was overthinking, that this was normal in relationships, and that we'd just become comfortable. I wanted to believe him, but comfortable felt more like I was fading away in his life. I started feeling restless and desperate even. I wanted him to see me again, to look at me like I was special, like I was the girl he'd fallen for. I wanted him to feel something. I wanted him to show me that he still cared, and as much as I wanted us to feel alive again, I wanted it more for myself to feel alive because I felt dead inside, not just inside physically. Like I didn't exist anymore, and that's why he didn't even notice me and how much I wanted our relationship to reignite that spark we used to have. Although according to him, we were still the same lovey-dovey couple. But I didn't think so. Maybe because he was working more and barely at home. And that was how I failed as a girlfriend. My desperation destroyed everything for me. I wasn't working at that time, although I was hoping to in the future. I used to work, but I lost my job, and Josh has been the one providing all the things we needed without complaining or making me feel like I was lazing around. And maybe that's why I had all the time in the world to notice things that were never in existence, because now I realized how stupid and dumb I was. So in an attempt to get noticed, I started hanging with the wrong person, someone I never should have. And I blame myself because as much as I felt like my boyfriend didn't love me anymore or wasn't doing all he used to do, I was not understanding enough because Josh was still providing me with everything I needed. I just didn't feel that connection anymore. It was like he was too busy for me, so it made me think that he didn't love me anymore. If not, he would suspend everything, including his work, to give me attention. I am big on attention. I love and crave for it so much, so once I feel like you're not giving me that, I start to think you're withdrawing. I just wanted Josh to wake up to see what he would be missing if he dared try to act funny, because I am a very beautiful woman. Any man would die to have me, so I had to find a way to get his attention back to me. I thought of everything to prove my worth to him, but there was no option to turn things around in my favor. So I decided to take a stroll to clear my head. To me, it was just another regular evening, one of those days when I needed a break from everything happening between Josh, and so I decided to take a stroll around the neighborhood, like I said, just to clear my head and maybe let some of my doubts float away. I didn't like the idea of feeling so invisible in my own relationship, like I was fading into the background of someone else's life. But out there, under the open sky with the breeze brushing my skin, I could at least pretend I was a whole person again. At least the breeze saw me and felt my presence. I hadn't gone far when I spotted a hot man sitting on a bench. He was sipping a coffee and looking out at the quiet street. He had this laid-back, comfortable look about him with messy dark hair and a calm and confident expression. And I don't know why, but there was this undeniable attraction. You know, something about him just drew me in. It was the kind of attraction that just happens when you see someone and think, wow, they're really pretty. So when I caught a glimpse for a moment, he just stood out for me. Maybe it's his poise or something about his presence that drew me in for that second. More like when you see something beautiful, like a sunset or a piece of art. You just appreciate it, admire it, and then move on. No strings, no deep feelings. It was not even about wanting more from him. It was just this honest admiration. But then he looked up as I passed by, and for a second I thought I'd just walk on, keep my head down and let the moment pass. But then he smiled and said, "Hey" to me, and I stopped and felt my cheeks warm just a bit, and then the hey was followed with a question. "Are you new around here too?" I laughed and shook my head and said no, that I'd been living there for a while, and I made a silly comment that I was a little surprised that he'd even noticed me at all. And then I asked him if he was new, that I haven't seen his face around, and he said yeah, and then took his casual sip from coffee before adding that he just moved in a week ago, and he was starting to think he was the only one around there who actually walked outside. He had this easygoing energy, and I found myself loosening up and feeling more at ease than I had in a long time. I made a little joke, mostly for my own amusement, when I said again I thought I was invisible, because I do come out sometimes, and he didn't even notice until now. He looked at me with this serious expression, like he couldn't believe I'd actually said that. "Invisible?" he repeated and shook his head slowly. He said honestly that I am the most beautiful person he has seen around here since I moved in, and he couldn't have missed me even if he tried. The way he said it, with a sincere tone and warmth in his eyes, caught me completely off guard. I'd been feeling so unseen lately that I didn't even know how to respond. I laughed it off and tried to hide the fact that my heart was racing a little. So I just replied and said it was nice of him to say that, and he was like, "No, really." He insisted as he held my gaze by stating that I should never feel invisible, and he meant that. And just like that, we started talking. About everything, really. Our favorite places to hang out, the restaurants he wanted to try, and all the little details you never think to ask someone right away. I found myself telling him things I hadn't shared with anyone in a long time. It felt strange but refreshing, like opening a door I hadn't realized had been shut for so long. We spent a good time there on that bench, just chatting and laughing, as if we'd known each other for years. He had this way of making me feel seen, like he genuinely cared about what I had to say. I could feel myself coming alive and feeling things I hadn't felt in so long. A lightness, a warmth I'd been missing. My heart was beating a little faster, and I found myself leaning in and listening closely to every word he said. At one point, he looked at me with this curious smile, and almost like he could sense the questions I was scared of. He asked if I had a boyfriend, and the question hit me like a splash of cold water and brought me back to reality. I could feel my pulse quicken and my mind racing. Part of me wanted to lie, to tell him that no, there wasn't anyone, that I was as free as I felt in that moment. I wanted this feeling to last, to hold on to this connection, this attention that made me feel seen, wanted. I felt like telling him that I had a boyfriend would ruin everything, and he won't feel so free and comfortable with me anymore, and I didn't want that to happen. But something inside me stopped me. I guess it was the love I have for Josh, so I couldn't bring myself to say it, to pretend that there was no man in my life. I did what's expected of me and told him I do have a boyfriend. I expected his expression to change, for him to pull back, for that spark between us to fizzle out, but instead, he just nodded and was still looking at me with that same calm understanding. He remarked that Josh was a lucky guy and he's got someone special while giving me a small smile. And that's when I started to feel a pang of guilt, like I was betraying the loyalty I had for Josh by even being here with him, feeling this way. And yet, his words stirred something in me, something I'd been ignoring for too long. I wanted to bask in the glory of his words and say that yes, I was special, that I deserved to be seen and appreciated. But I wasn't sure because I felt different with Josh. Then I found myself opening up to him and telling how complicated my relationship with Josh was at the moment, but I was not sure where the words were coming from. I told him how we've been together for 2 years now, but sometimes it felt like I was disappearing in the relationship. He looked at me and said that it sounds like Josh has got a good thing going, but just doesn't know how lucky he is, and that sometimes people take what they have for granted. It doesn't mean it's right, though. Those words lingered in my mind, and it was echoing louder than I wanted them to. It was like he'd tapped into something I'd been hiding even from myself, something I'd been too scared to admit, and I sat there with him and felt more alive in a few minutes than I had in months. I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, he was right. We ended up talking a bit longer, neither of us wanting to break the spell that had settled between us. It was hard to pull myself away, to face the reality that waited for me beyond that moment, but eventually I knew I had to go. Josh was returning back home soon, so I told him I was leaving. He looked at me with understanding and nodded. He said that if I ever need someone to talk to, or just someone to remind me that I am not invisible, that I know where to find him. I smiled at him, feeling both grateful and a little heartbroken all at once. I murmured a thank you to him, and wished I could stay in that moment forever. As I walked back home, I felt refreshed. My gnawing thought of not feeling satisfied with the attention Josh was not giving me disappeared. So we started hanging out more often, and hanging out led to making out. Not once, not twice. Yes, I was seen and no longer invisible, but I didn't get everything I wanted out of it. I realized that all I only wanted was to be seen by the man I loved the most, and no matter what happened between Liam and I still wanted Josh's attention. I loved him. He's all I wanted. I knew I had a choice to make, so I called everything off with Liam. This man was not happy with my decision, but he didn't have a choice. So I went to ask myself, how do I make Josh devote all his time to me? Then the thought popped into my mind. What if I could make him feel just a bit jealous, just enough to wake him up, to make him realize he still wanted me, that I was worth fighting for? I know it sounds immature now, but at that moment, it felt like the only way to make him see me again. I told myself it was no big deal, and that a little spark of jealousy could bring back that fire between us. Looking back, I realize how wrong I was, but I was too caught up in my own need to feel seen to think clearly. The chance came at a neighbor's birthday party. He and I went together, but as soon as we walked in, he drifted off to talk with his friends and barely even noticed me. It was like I was just there to fill a seat next to him, like I was some sort of silent accessory to his life. My heart sank as I watched him laugh with his friends. He was so engrossed that he didn't even glance my way. I was angry. After putting in the effort to look this good, he still left my side. I was so annoyed. We came to this party together so he should stay with me alone. I was that selfish with him, or I wanted to be that selfish with him, so I started taking drinks while glaring at him. That's when I saw Liam. I was surprised to see him at the party. I could feel my heart race as he came over, pulling me into a hug. I snuck a glance at my boyfriend, hoping to see him looking our way, hoping to see even a flicker of emotion. But he was completely unaware, not even sparing me a second glance. As I talked with Liam, I felt that old confidence coming back. I laughed at his jokes, and I leaned a little closer, and even let him drape his arm over my shoulder. It was a familiar feeling, one I hadn't felt in so long, that rush of attention, of being noticed. For a moment, I felt powerful, like I was in control again. I kept glancing over, hoping to catch Josh's reaction, hoping he'd finally notice me. But every time I looked, he was busy, oblivious to my little game. Then Liam, knowing my plans, leaned in, and before I could think twice, I did it. I kissed him. Just a deep kiss as I felt Liam's hand grabbing me behind. The kiss was deep enough to make my point. I thought for sure this would get his attention, that he'd feel a flash of jealousy and finally see me the way he used to, and realized what he would be missing if loses me. I imagined him coming over, angry, maybe even possessive, telling me he still wanted me, that he cared. But what I saw in that moment was so far from what I'd hoped. But here's the thing. I wasn't the one looking at my boyfriend when I kissed Liam. Liam was. I was deep into the kiss. I didn't care to look as far as he was watching. I got him where I wanted. That was my thought. Liam had this smirk on his face, like he knew exactly what he was doing. Then he looked over my shoulder, straight at my boyfriend, and that's when it all fell apart. Instead of anger or jealousy, I saw something much worse on Josh's face. Disgust, disappointment. In that 1 second, I felt so small. I felt like a fool. With rage, Josh turned to walk away and I panicked. I pulled away from Liam and my mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was not supposed to be this way. And then Liam's words stopped him in his tracks. He told Josh he can't blame me for wanting something better when he was the one who took me for granted and couldn't give me his attention. And the next thing was, Josh's fist landed on his face, and Liam fell to the floor and everyone gasped. I was scared, so I fell to my knees and begged him and said it wasn't anything serious, that I just wanted to be seen by him, and he said if being seen meant messing around with other men, then Liam and I deserved each other. Trust me, I denied I wasn't messing around with anyone. I don't even know why he would think I did that. I needed to save my face, so I kept denying, but Liam thought otherwise, that I wasn't proud of him, that I should tell him we've been sleeping around because I prefer him. At this point, everyone's attention was now on me. Josh told me never to return home again and that he was done with me and that I should stick to my attention man. Then he walked away. I wanted to run after him, to grab him, to explain, but I couldn't move. My legs felt heavy and my heart sank as I watched him disappear. Everyone present in the party had noticed, and some were whispering, others watching me with judgmental eyes like they'd just witnessed something embarrassing. And yes, it was. I felt humiliated before everyone. I'd wanted his attention, but I'd ended up making a fool of myself in front of everyone. I'd played this game to win him back, but instead I'd pushed him away further than I ever thought possible. I wanted to cry, to scream, to rewind time and undo everything. But the damage was done. I'd lost him, and I had no one to blame but myself. As I left the party alone that night with my broken heart and with my face burning with the shame of what I'd done, I'd convinced myself that he was the one who had stopped caring, that he was the one who'd become distant. But maybe it had been me all along, too wrapped up in my own insecurities to see what was right in front of me. Update. Here's an update for anyone that's interested. I'll keep this short since I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed. I'm not sure if I'll even do another update after this. I have been pleading with Josh for days now, but he has refused to listen to me. He said he spent all his time and put in all his effort to make sure we were living comfortably and never lacked. And whenever he came back, he tried his best to show me love and care, but I was too self-absorbed to notice that I had to even go sleep around for attention. He is wrong because I didn't sleep around. I slept with just one man, and if it was not for that stupid dump kiss, nothing would have gone wrong. It's so sad that it all happened that way. I never ever wanted to cheat on Josh, but now it has happened, and I can't go back to the past to change that ugly moment. I just need his forgiveness. It was all because I loved him too much. That's why I fell into that trap. But he said if that is what loving him meant, he doesn't want to be loved by me, and he ended the relationship. The dreams we had gone. We were supposed to get married, but now it's all gone. All because of one stupid kiss, and now that stupid Liam that said I was not invisible has shown me what it means to be invisible, because now he treats me like I don't exist, and everyone in my neighborhood now sees the need to gossip about me every now and then. I feel so embarrassed and ashamed. I can't face life any longer. I only wanted to face this harsh life with Josh, but now he's no more in my life, and I think it's time to move on. There's no use crying over spilled milk. I can't fix it with Josh, but I have a chance to do better if I ever get to love anyone in the future, because I don't want to. I just needed Josh. For now, I have to get off here. But anyways, thanks for reading and for judging me and advising it.